getting a whole lot of views, so I'm pretty excited about that. And they mentioned the fact that I'm a writing coach in it, so that's kind of cool.
Awesome.
Hey everybody, this is B. Salazar. I'm in Shiraz, South Carolina, and I am happy to be here. What I'm most excited is after the power launch meeting last week, I got the last kick in the butt from Joan, and I actually got started in putting up all my social media and rounding up people. So I'm going to have the first meeting with my group on the 24th of September. So I'm excited about that. Thank you, Joan.
That's awesome. I'm really happy for you.
Way to go.
Hi, everybody. I am Sharon Ruggs, and I am hailing from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm very excited that last Thursday I just put in my license for my LLC. So just taking baby steps, but excited along for the journey.
Awesome.
Hey guys, my name is John Boyd. I'm joining from Dallas. I'm just really excited to get the ball rolling. I'm actually trying to start my life coaching business, so this is the first start. Nice to meet you all, by the way.
Awesome. Hey, if you're just making it into the room, what we're doing really quickly is just hearing from everybody really quick, and then we're going to dive into what we're doing today.
Hello, my name is Ashley. I'm from Ohio. I'm currently building my life coaching business. Yes, and I'm excited about learning with you all along the journey.
Anybody else like to say hello? And obviously, you can use the chat widget. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, you get registered really quick and you can join the Zoom with us, because that's where we'll be doing a lot of the work today. And I'm also going to be sharing a file in just a second with everybody. But let's give it another minute. Does anybody else like to say hello? Tell us where you're joining us from, and maybe something that you're wanting to take away today, something that you're excited about. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Timmy Dungan. I'm from Connecticut. I'm new to coaching and looking forward to learning some new information and hoping I can launch a coaching business. Thanks.
Awesome. Let me say hi to a few people in the chat. Susan's joining us from South Carolina. Excited I got to the meeting live this week. Angela's joining us from San Bernardino. Very good. Hey, I'm going to stick a document inside of the chat widget that you guys can download. And when anybody comes along, you can tell them that that's where they can find it. Now, if you guys have paid any attention to what I've been talking about really over the last week, really globally, we're in a life satisfaction crisis. And it's by every matter of fact, it's actually been quite the slide over the last, couple of decades, really. Where we had what seemed to be in the 90s for a little while there, at the end of the 90s or whatever, a little bit of peak happiness, we want to say that. And we've had an incredibly steady decline where really what we're looking at is that most people, we're talking about 60% of people, if you went out and you did a survey yourself, you would find that most people are going to say that they are unhappy, more likely to say they are unhappy than they are going to, the likelihood of them saying that they are actually happy. So we're quite in the middle of a crisis. And one of the things that I had said last week in our Mentor Monday, and if you didn't see that, then I'll just recap just a couple of elements of it. One of those being that when you're kind of in a spot where people are at peak unhappiness globally, a lot of times people are like, well, it's because of the economy. It's because of politics. It's because of this, that, and the other. The reality is this. The reality is that happiness is an inside job. And if the circumstances that are going on are in and around your life or the economy or whoever your president is or whatever, then something's actually wrong. That's not actually a great indicator of happiness, but it might be an indicator when we take things away, because this is the reality, is that when we take things away in someone's life and when pressure hits you, when you feel the pressure in your life, it actually reveals what your emotional state really is, what your state of being really is internally. And a lot of times we don't take the time to actually evaluate where we're actually at. And right now, and if COVID did give us a gift over the last couple of years, one of the things is for certain that people are actually evaluating their life. And they're realizing that what they thought was making them happy a couple of years ago really wasn't, if they were really honest with themselves. And so for some of you who have been thinking about becoming a coach, you've aspired to be a coach. Some of you are watching way too much CNN and Fox News or MSNBC, and you think that this is a terrible time to start a business. This is actually the time when your number is being called. I am overwhelmed right now in this season of life because of all the people who are coming to me, and you know what some of their biggest issues are? About finding their why, about finding their purpose, and what's next in my life. Transition's actually the time when people are looking for help. You give everybody a 6-figure job in the United States right now, they are not going to be looking for coaches. I can pretty much guarantee that. Now, I work with high-end clients, and I have for a lot of years, and it's usually when they have tried everything in life that they're finally going to look for purpose. After they've spent money and they've bought everything, and that's a long time. A lot of times those people are in their 60s finally looking for their purpose or whatever, and so I'll try anything, I'll spend my money on it now. Reality is that you want people who are actually aware of their pain. They're aware of things that aren't working, and this is the time right now when coaches are needed, and they're in short supply. A lot of coaches are sitting there, and they're unfortunately being influenced by the same voices that a lot of other people are, and they're stuck. They're not moving forward. They're not doing what they need to be doing. And history is going to be looking at us and evaluating our life, because we're going to know in 5 to 10 years, did we step up in that moment? This is your time. For those of you who believe that your purpose and your calling is, listen, your purpose and your calling isn't when the economy gets straight and when anything else needs to happen. Your purpose and your calling actually shows up in the moment when it's most needed. And I really am. I'm sounding an alarm on this, because you wouldn't believe all the conversations that I'm having. Multiple conversations this week with people at all levels of leadership, at all economic levels, everything else. I should show you the people who have sat on my couch, the people who have sat across from me, people who I don't even know that find out that I'm a coach. These conversations happen. People who don't even know that I'm a coach, these conversations are happening. They're all over the place. If you're halfway paying attention, these things are happening. And so what I want to do today is to give you one really brief tool. And I say brief tool because I'm going to give you a couple of different methods in which you can implement it. Because these conversations, if they're not already happening, try it today. Try it after you leave this Zoom today, and start to stir some of these conversations with people. And you're going to watch the hunger, the need, and I never want to say that people are desperate, but what I would say is that they are very aware, and they're evaluating their life for the first time. And if you wait a few years for everything to figure out, what there always is in these things. I started my coaching practice in the last recession after I was unemployed for 6 months and everything else, with a 400 credit score. So I had all kinds of self-doubt and imposter syndrome and a lot of other things that were going on. And it was absolutely the right time to start. There was so much need. There was so much hunger. There was so much looking and introspection and a lot of other things that are going. And a lot of times people they have their game face on and they look like everything's perfect, but we need to be able to show up in these moments and ask these questions and start watching. So let me give you kind of a lowdown of, because I know that there's a lot of times that people talk about how people find their why. And I think that a lot of times people will say, well, why and your purpose isn't necessarily the exact same thing, but I would say that they are part and parcel. They're pretty much the same thing, and there's some really good reasons why. But to start, we're going to do a couple of fun icebreakers, because I want you guys to think about this, and I need interactivity. So I'm asking you for interactivity, particularly on the Zoom, that I can hear your voice and everything else. So let me ask you a question. And this is by way of icebreaker, so that you understand where we're going with whys, okay? And this is going to start this is going to start revealing even in you. If you guys have never figured out your why and what makes up a why. I want you to, we're going to point some of these things out even right now. So if you could prevent one of the following, which would you choose? Would you choose eliminating an earthquake in Chile that would kill 40,000 people? Would you choose a plane crash at a local airport that would kill 200 people? Listen, if we could prevent one of these things, what would we do? Would you prevent an earthquake in Chile that would kill 40,000 people? Would you prevent a plane crash at a local airport that would kill 200 people? Or would you prevent a car accident that would kill a best friend of yours? So give me your answers really quick. You can either throw them in the chat or just turn on your microphone. Which one of these would you prevent if it were you? Listen, here's the thing about it, is that when it comes to your why, there are no right answers. So don't try to answer a question that you think is going to be most socially acceptable, because the right answer is the true answer in your heart. It's not what everybody else thinks. See, that's a clue right now on the front end when it comes to why people have such low satisfaction right now, because people aren't really living the life as it's actually in their heart, what they truly would do. So let me get your answers really quick. What would you guys prevent if you could prevent one of those things? And I'll stick it on the screen again.
I'd prevent the last one.
You would prevent the last one. Thanks for being honest on that one, Joan. That's awesome. Tell me why. Now, listen, here's the thing is that with coaches, and I always teach people, we don't ask why questions because why are judgmental. That's why when I do a follow-up on this question, if we're not careful, it'll actually put people in corners. But why that's in trust, knowing that I believe the best in someone. So there's no right answers. That's why I'm prefacing this. There's no right answers and there's no judgment. But I want to get to the deeper reason of what's influencing a decision. So for you, Joan, you're making a huge decision between 40,000 lives versus a best friend of yours. So what's the makings of that decision for you?
Because it's personal. I know this person. I know their family. I know who it's going to impact. I mean, the others would break my heart too, but this is personal. This is somebody I know that is going to have ramifications for other people I know. That's the only way I can explain it.
Awesome. If there was a value behind that, if there was something, what is the deeper value do you think that's behind that? That's like, hey, here's what's really under everything. This is the reason above everything else that I'm actually choosing this.
I just have to say, because it's personal. As somebody I know, it's somebody that means something to me.
Got it. Angela says the last one, and they're choosing that because of relationship or connection. Anybody else like to share? And again, there's no right answers on this. Which one of these would you prevent?
Hey, Paul.
Oh, go ahead, V.
Okay, thank you, Mike. You know, I had my heart split between the last one and the first one. And you say something when you said the one that is least socially acceptable or don't think about that. I say, I agree. The last one is personal to me. And if it's my best friend, I will be hurting for a long time that I could have done something for somebody I know. So it's going to affect me first also. And of course, the other people around me. But then I had my heart split because I said, well, there are 400,000 people that are losing their loved ones. So I had my heart split. But if it comes down to pick, in the end, it's going to be the last one. And it's because it's hurting me personally. And I'm not sure how would I live my life knowing I could have saved my best friend. And if I could not save my best friend, then I mean, that's going to be very hard. But awesome. I tell you.
Thanks for sharing that. Hey, for Sharon and Rebecca and Atavia, because you guys are all, I see that for Sharon, she says, prevent 40,000, and Atavia said prevent 40,000. What was the why behind the why that made you choose that one?
I've said I prevent the earthquake primarily because I try to look beyond myself in a lot of situations. Or looking at the bigger picture. And yes, I would be affected if it was just a friend or someone that I know, but I don't know, in my life, I try to look at beyond just myself. How would this affect other people at a greater and grander scale? So not only would those people be killed, but then their families and their families and friends, just the bigger picture beyond myself.
Awesome. Atavia, would you share where how you came up with your answer?
I probably would do the most out of the group because that personal friend of mine, she probably will hear my mouth all the time in ways to prevent an accident. I'm just like constantly talking to her on ways that we could prevent different accidents or things to happen. And I've had several conversations with her already. So it would probably be the most people because they haven't heard from me, and why not stretch my arms a little further to help other people that haven't been touched by me yet. So that's my answer.
Got it. One of the things that was really interesting is that you said you're always looking, this is how you kind of live your life. That's something that you're already practicing in your life, which is looking to help other people. How is that showing up in life right now as a primary value in terms of, what you do and how you're always reaching out in that kind of a way?
Every conversation is about uplifting and inspiring people, even people that I talk to on a daily. That's why sometimes I keep my mouth shut because I'm like, y'all are going to start paying me like for real, because like every time I open up my mouth, they be like, oh my God, you just make me feel so good. And I'm like, yeah, but I need some dollars from you. So I'm just going to stop these phone conversations.
Oh man, that's so good. All right, we're going to do one more icebreaker and then because here's what we said. Again, there's no right answer in this. There is a socially acceptable answer to this. But how many of you know that sometimes when you're keeping your mouth shut and you're living the life that everybody else thinks that you live, that's a pretty low satisfaction of life? Would we agree that that's really not the way that you want to live your life? Now, it's one thing to say, is there something that someone is doing that is morally wrong? Like if we're hurting individuals or whatever, I think we'd all agree that it's like, hey, you know what? We're not talking about something morally wrong or ethically wrong. We're talking about, hey, can we be honest? Because in all of these cases, it's tragic, So how would we respond, and if we're being authentically ourselves and living what is most valuable to us, how would we do that? Now, here's another one. So we'll start with this question. I need everybody's answer on this. For $50,000, would you put on 40 pounds and keep it on for a year? Let me get your answers. For $50,000, would you put on 40 pounds and keep it on for a year? All right, give me your answers. And
Hey, Paul.
Okay, a lot of people are saying no. So here, I
No
want you
way.
to qualify it.
No way.
Qualify your no. Why would you say no?
I'm saying no way. I just lost over 100 pounds over the last 2 years. And I
Wow.
did it for health reasons. And there is no one could pay me any amount of money to put weight back on. It's not worth it.
Got it.
No, me neither. I would not put on that amount of weight.
And so
No way.
qualify that. Why would you not put on 40 pounds for $50,000?
Because it was a time in my life that I struggled with mental health, and it was like a heavier version of myself. So now that I'm recovered, I have a bad association with that. So I do yoga every day and I watch what I eat. So it's like, no, that would set me back all the way from where I started. So no.
Got it. Thank you for that. Angela says, no, too hard to lose it when you want. Lynette says, I'm with Joan. Rebecca said it would probably kill me. Tavia says, no, not doing something for that amount of money to ruin my image. Somebody else said that they were vain, too vain. Tara says, no, I'm already 30 pounds overweight. Ashley says, I wouldn't do it to health reasons. And Allison says, no, because of long-term health complications. And Bart says, I've done that for free, so I've already checked that box. Leave it to Bart. All right. So let me have a follow-up question to that. For $100,000, would you put on 40 pounds and keep it on for a year? $50,000. Lynette says, still nope. Joan says,
I would.
no. Anybody?
I
Hey, did anybody's answer change from the 50,000 to 100,000?
Yes, I would have done it for 50, but I would for 100 because that's life-changing for my family.
Got it. It's life-changing for your family. So when you do when you compute it, how are you coming to that decision? Because it's a big change from where you were a second ago.
Well, 50,000 wouldn't do much, but I mean, to change the course of our situation, and it's purely financial. But it would 100,000 would change our what we can and can't do.
What's one significant thing that the 100,000 would change that the 50,000 couldn't? One most significant thing.
It would pay off our house, which the long-term effect of that over the months would make a huge difference for us.
Okay, so it's not just money, but what does that do? Because obviously it's taking away a debt, but that debt being alleviated does what is the most significant thing in your life that it does?
It allows for freedom in other areas.
Okay, what's the most important area that you want freedom?
Just time back with family. Spending less time working on whatever it is that we're having to work, a job of whatever it is, and we have that time back. We don't have to spend 60 hours a week to provide, to pay for that. And I'm not saying we're overspending, but I think in that particular situation, it would be a life changer for us. Got it.
And you couldn't choose the 50,000 because what was the thing that you're like, oh, I'm a no on this at the 50,000?
It wouldn't cancel that debt completely.
Got it. So the reason why I'm following up and asking these additional questions is because what are we expressing there? We're expressing a value. We're expressing what's most important. We're expressing, what are we really expressing? A why. And a why is influencing a decision for all of us in this, because we can say no really quickly when we see a certain dollar amount. But now what is Mike saying in this? He's saying that freedom and time with family. He's talking about a value of family. And I could get him to keep unpacking it and everything else of what is really important. And so what he's looking at is that family is a value and that it's expressed in presence, and that money isn't about money, but it's about freedom and it's access to the people that he loves. So that's how, like, maybe my health's a real value, but generally speaking, there's certain things that we won't do. But you know what happens is that all of a sudden, when there is a greater value that's happening in your life, you can see that for a short-term pain, I will go after what is most important in my life. And 1 year of being uncomfortable is definitely worth it for the payoff that I'm going to have more time with my family. Let's go on though. For 250,000, would you put on 40 pounds and keep it on for a year? Who's having their answer? Look, first of all, who's keeping the same answer and who's changing their answer? Jones says still no, right? 250,000, 40 pounds for a year. That's all it is.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because, like I said, health-wise, I just lost a lot. And I would feel like I was selling what's most important. Well, I mean, outside my health is it is important to me. But it's important for me to be there for my family, to not be in pain, to not be sick like I was. And to sell my health and my well-being, my mental health for $250,000, I would not enjoy spending that money. Yes, it would pay off our house. It would put us in a place where we would never have to worry about losing our house again. We would have, money put away. We could buy the couple things that we need and have savings, but I can't risk my health to do it. I feel like I'd be selfish.
Got it. And it seems
Now,
like
even if you say $1 million, I'm not going for $1 million either.
because that is the next question.
Yeah,
If
I
it was
figured
$1
so.
million, would you
Deal?
put on 40 pounds for only a year? Hey, it's only a year. I'm not saying you got to keep 40 pounds on for the rest of your life. We're just talking about a year.
Deal or no deal, right? I'm
Does
still a
anybody
no.
change their mind at $1 million?
No, I didn't change it still because I feel like the motivation is still so messed up. It's not a good motivation. It's not part of what I believe. So I might not even be able to put on the 40 pounds. What if you try and you're stuck at 20? You still wouldn't get the $1 million and you were messed up for 20 pounds and then you have to lose all of that. So I don't know. Still no.
V says, can it be 40 pounds of muscle? That's good thinking. That's awesome. And Tara says, okay, for $1 million, yes, because I could get a personal trainer after that. So it's interesting. So Tara, a bit ago, you said no way at that amount of money. So tell me what the bigger value is then once it gets to $1 million. What value is being expressed that's most important to you? And Tara says it could change everything for my family. If there's one thing that would change for your family, what does $1 million do that 250 or 100 or 50,000 couldn't do? That's okay. You can just stick it in the chat. I know you're at work. So one thing that $1 million could do to your family, for your family, that I could give all my kids a great start in adulthood. Awesome. So what's she expressing there? Tara's expressing what the most important value is, which means that I can put my health off. I can put my vanity off. I can possibly put myself in a little bit of jeopardy for a season for a greater value. See, the thing is that what I'm trying to point out to everyone is that your values are always at work. What's most important deeply, but here's the thing, is that most people don't know what their values are, and your values are directly connected to what your why is. See, sometimes, and I know that in more recent years, we've had some people try to grasp and help people practically sort out what their why is. What is your why? But the thing is that it's a little bit more complicated than just saying my why is my one single purpose in the world, because you don't have one single purpose in the world. Now, I do believe that everybody's got a purpose and a calling for humanity. I honestly believe that, and I live by that. And somebody that I was talking to the other day, and we were just talking about what's most important and everything else. And I'm like, there's not a whole lot that is, I could give up a lot of things in life. But if I didn't feel like I could be purposeful, that would be the most painful thing to me. And I would define purpose. I know what my purpose is. I have it very much written up. I know what my values are. It's really clear for me in these things. But the reality is that when push comes to shove, when the economy does whatever, when you don't get the president that you want, go down the list of whatever is going on in the world that people are upset or angry about or mad. See, the reality is that almost no one could verbalize to you what the values are in their life, what's most important to them. And this is actually what's causing the greatest pain. And it's keeping someone from being able to move forward. That's why someone could say right now, I don't have purpose. I don't have meaning. I don't know what to do moving forward in my life. It's not because of anything else that's going on in life. why they've lost certainty is because they don't really know what's truly most important. And so this is more important than a goal. Like some coaches are like, well, you just need a goal. What goal do you want in your life? Well, they don't know if they don't know what's most important, or they'll choose the wrong goal. And this is what's happened for so many people. Like, look at what's going on with people right now. There's some people who had great passion and they were going after those things, and then they ended up with disappointment in the last couple of years, so they're crushed. Some people who are always saying yes to everything they could put their hands on. Some people who chose job security over what was most important, and now they don't have job security, and now they're equally sad. Or some people who still have job security, but they know that it's not connected with what's truly most important in their life, so they're trying to do that on the weekends. They're working for the weekend. They're working hard and they're playing hard or whatever. And so what this all leads to is life dissatisfaction. So we need to help people get really clear on what's most important, and then they can get really clear on what their why is. Oh, really quickly, I didn't know that I had this out of order. I'm going to show you what those tools look like in just a second. And I'm actually giving you a document so that you can have a few different methods. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, join us in Jumpstart. Few people who are on the call today are actually in our Jumpstart program. It's the most valuable coaching program that I believe actually exists on the market, because you do get trained and certified as a coach. Matter of fact, this weekend we're having a live boot camp. You can start with me on Friday and Sunday. You can knock out your certification in a single weekend. So some of you who have been putting off what you believe is most important in your life, that you've been putting off because something else that's making choices for you, maybe this weekend is the weekend that you knock it out and that you actually start, because September is the #1 coaching month out of the entire year. It's the #1 business month because people are actually looking to they got back into school with the kids. Everything's much more ordered. They got their vacation out of the way. Now they're ready to do some work on themselves and in their life, set some goals, finish really strong in the year. This weekend, this program is normally, it's a $3,500 value. You get it included inside of Jumpstart. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Brand Camp is our branding course. We give you 13 hours to show you how to develop the branding, your marketing message, your website, a sales page, how to write an email, how to wireframe your website, search engine optimization, all of those things that we actually include inside of Brand Camp. We also have recently launched this course, which is the Coaching Product Launch Blueprint. And we show you how to go from an idea all the way to developing a product and launching it. We even give you we give you everything. We talk about social media posts. We talk about the 14-day product launch sequence. So we really do. We bring you from brainstorming all the way to developing a product. And this is and it's completely a walkthrough. It's 8 sessions. It's about 10 hours of your time. Jumpstart includes every one of these things, including certification, including boot camp. Jumpstart's our business development roadmap. We show you the A to Z, and this is it's not hype, and it's not exaggeration, and it's not what a lot of other kinds of things are. What we try to do is we try to show you how to build your coaching practice around yourself authentically, attract your ideal clients, and you really do. You walk away with a daily strategy, with a daily, weekly strategy on how to work on your business, how to reach, how to find your people, all of those things that we do. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. And I'll stick the link inside of the chat widget so that you can get enrolled in about 90 seconds and you can join us this weekend and knock out your certification. So let's talk about what your values actually are. Your values are your why behind your why. But like I was saying just a minute ago, that most people don't actually know what their values are. And because people don't know what their values are, it's giving them a heck of a lot of pain. It's giving them intense pain right now in their life, because some of the things that they're choosing are not in alignment with what they think is actually most important. So values in the simplest form, if I just had it as a question that a coach would ask, is what's most important? What's most important to you? Values are deeply held, enduring beliefs, and they define what is valuable or important to us in life. And they're the framework for defining what we think is right and wrong. And I'll finish up with this. When you don't know your values, you can't make clear decisions. So whenever you find somebody who's indecisive, if you can think of a time when you were indecisive in your life and you were going back and forth, it's because you didn't know what was most important. It's because you didn't know your values. When you don't know your values, your goals won't fulfill your deep emotional needs, and the result will be anger, disappointment, frustration, emptiness, etc. So if you see someone in these conditions, signs people don't know their values, you can see someone who's generally unfulfilled and they don't really know why. That's someone who doesn't know their values. If you see someone who is indecisive and they go back and forth, it's a person who's indecisive. They don't know their why. If you see lots of activity and nothing to show for it in someone's life, it's someone who does not know what's most important. They don't know their why. If you see someone who says that they feel off, they're depressed, they're angry, they're irritated, they're moody, they're saying things like, what's the point? They have low motivation, they're conflicted. All of these are signs of somebody who doesn't really know what their why is. Sometimes people lose their why, but some people have never gone through an evaluative process in their life to figure out, hey, what's most important and what's influencing my decisions, and how do I do this? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you guys, and if you haven't already downloaded the document that I sent you just a while ago, I'm going to send it to you again. It's in a Google Doc, and I'm going to show you, essentially a few different methods of helping people find their why. And so what we'll do, if you can open up that document, what I'm going to do over here on my end, I've got it open on my end, and I want to give you a few different methods, and then I'm going to also show you something on the whiteboard as well that helps people really figure out what their why is. Method one is the one that I would call, and I'm going to see if I can bring up the whiteboard really quick and write some of these things down. And again, jump in that link that I just gave you in the description, and then you'll be able to grab this. The first method is really easy because I don't want you to think that finding why is really complicated. But method one, and we're talking about the kinds of questions that you would ask someone. Method one is the one that I call addition and subtraction. Really what we're talking about, and you've probably had some of these questions asked of yourself, and they're questions like this. If you had 5 years, you ever hear people ask that question? 5 years left in your life. See, what are we doing? Is that we're narrowing things. And we can ask things like, what 3 things would you want to accomplish? Or what must you accomplish in those 5 years? What happens instantly for someone? When you do addition and subtraction and you take away, what somebody starts talking about are the things that are most important. See, everybody knows their why at the end of the day. They really do, because you never make decisions consistently outside of what your values are. And if you do make decisions that are not your values, then you will be depressed and you will be frustrated and you'll be irritated and you'll feel shut down. So what happens for most people is that they are actually secretly making decisions based on what is most important to them in some kind of a way. But what happens is, as people go along in their life, they often need to be recalibrated to what's most important. I'll give you an example. I knew a guy years ago. I remember I was at our business club in San Diego. I'd met this attorney, and we were talking about some of the things about how he became an attorney and everything else. And now he's sitting there in his life, and he's hating his job. He's hating his career and everything else. And so it's like, okay, or is this guy looking at a life change or whatever? Like, what does this guy really want? And the more that I pressed on him and I asked questions, really what had happened for him is that he had made, when he got into to law and everything else, and why he'd been thinking about it is because as a kid, he had watched some movies that showed the attorney as the hero. And it was a hero, and I think it was like, I'm trying to remember the movie, but it was like an older movie, and it was like the attorney was the hero. And there used to be some movies and TV shows back in the day that were usually in black and white, and it showed an attorney as someone who is distinguished, not somebody who's chasing an ambulance and not someone who's trying to rip people off, but someone who's out there after justice. And somewhere along the way for this individual, even though that's where they started, one of the decisions, one of the values that came along was that they wanted stability. And they wanted stability for their wife and for their family. And so you know what they ended up doing? They ended up taking a job that only an attorney could take, but they started working for an insurance company. And they were on the wrong side, not for the people they were supposed to be defending. They were on the side of, I'm working for this insurance company to keep the insurance company for having to pay out for accidents and stuff like that. So you can imagine that. And so what ends up happening for that person, the means to help their family ended up taking precedent over what the end was. The end game for this person, the outcome that they wanted, was they're supposed to be bringing justice, but they also want the outcome for their family to be able to thrive. And so what ends up happening, because they make a choice that is not in alignment with their values, because they didn't think about their values when they started. Most people are not thinking about what's most important. They're thinking about making it. They're thinking about making $5 more an hour. They're thinking more about, hey, you know what? You ever heard somebody say, we're going to move the family out of this city into this other, because I think that we're going to be a lot happier over in that other city. And then you get over there and you notice that they get to the new city and their life still sucks. Everything's still a disaster. You know why? Because it wasn't about the city. It wasn't always about the outward influence. It was about who were they going to be when they got to the new place. And they didn't have a value for that. They didn't have a goal for that was in alignment. I understand the value of wanting your family to do better, but you've also got to have a value and know what you're after so that you're making a plan based on what's most important. So we see these things at work all around us. This is why people aren't satisfied in their life. So what happens when we ask a question like this one, we get really clear, because when I say, what 3 things would you need to accomplish? You know what they're telling me? They're going to start talking about their values. And I can, as a coach, ask them, okay, well, if there's 3 things that you have to accomplish, then what are they? And they'll say stuff like, you know what? They might say something like, spend time with family. Oh, really? Are you doing that right now? Well, not right now because my work and this, that, and the other. No, the reality is that you have life satisfaction that's really low because you're not being true to what your core value is. And you're acting like you don't have control over your life because of your job. And so you're settling in your life, and that's going to bring your life satisfaction down. See, people know what their why is at the end of the day, but sometimes they're making choices that are not in alignment with what their why really is. And they need to be true to themselves, and they need to be honest, or they need to ask this question right here is, I know that you're in a job right now that is what it is. How can I? See, the questions of purpose. Somebody might talk about purpose. I want to go to, this country, in South America and help someone or whatever, this is the place. It's always been in my heart. When are you going to do that? Well, people will say, well, once I get the money, once I get a little bit older, whatever. The reality is that those things are never going to happen. Life satisfaction stays where it's at because we're not actually choosing the life that we want, because we're not very intentional. We don't realize what is truly most important, because right now there's probably 10 ways to get there. Matter of fact, there might be a way that you can partially live into that right now. Like I tell coaches, they're like, well, I just don't think that I can just quit my full-time job to do this. And I'm like, nobody's telling you to quit your full-time job. I worked part-time as a coach until all of a sudden I was making more money working as a part-time coach than I was my full-time job. And I got to where I would take a holiday, take a vacation day, go and work and do corporate coaching for a day. I made more money in a day than I would make in an entire month. And at that point, it was like, I can replace this income. Like, I had to really address what was most important. And you know what was most important to me? Was my wife's health care. but I was so afraid of even looking into it. It's like, I can't give up what's certain. But you know what? My life was miserable working a job that wasn't in my passion, that it wasn't in what was most important to me. I was just kind of like doing tasks and getting paid and fake working 6 hours a day, like most Americans are, where you're kind of like, well, I really only have 2 hours of work, but I got to get my hours in. Well, if you want purpose in your life and you're just working for a paycheck and you're just putting your hours in, life satisfaction is going to be really low. Again, people are recognizing at this time in their life that things are not working. And so this is the perfect time to ask these questions. A couple of other questions that you could ask. See, when I take away life, now it gets, you know what we get? We get clarity. This is what people need right now. You get certainty. This is what people are looking for right now, is it not? They want clarity. They want certainty. So instead of waiting until you only have 5 years left of your life, and now you're going to go hog wild into something, how can I right now, with my health and what it is, with the 25, 30, 40 years that I have left of my life? Or if I ask a question, another subtraction, if I had 1 year, that same question. See, what 1 year does is that it focuses the target much more in than it ever even was. And you're like, I got one thing that I've got to accomplish in 1 year. What is that thing going to be? What is that going to define for me? It's going to define my why. It's going to, the more I ask this question, like, what's behind that? And what's behind that? And what's behind that? See, we do things not for the outcomes. This is what happens. A lot of people do things to get an outcome. Like they'll take a job to make a paycheck, but the paycheck's not really the outcome they're looking for. Like, honestly, there's 100 different ways that you could do that. You could downsize your life. You could move to a different state. You could move to a different country. You could go fully online and you could live wherever you wanted. There's a lot of different ways to actually accomplish things. But see, we can't just go after the goal. We have to know what our why is and pursue the why and achieve our goal as a result. The outcome should be in alignment every time with what our why really is. And this is why so many people are in pain right now, because they've been living life with the check engine light on, because their why and the outcome, the goal, whatever they're doing here has been out of alignment for too long. So now there's massive pain that's going on in their life. You know, another question that you can have, that you can ask to get to people's why is something like this. If you had 10 million in your bank account at midnight, and it wasn't just helping family, but what are the top 3 things that you would need to accomplish that you would do with that money? Past giving back and loving your family and all that other stuff. What are the 3 things? You know what they'll tell you? This is going to be a purpose question. It's a why question. Because what we start doing is, now that I add, see, I did the thing with subtracting. When I add, now people can think creatively. See, because if somebody can tell me what they would do with 10 million, then why aren't you doing it now? Well, I'm not doing, you already know what's most important to you. Well, and you know what? 10 million is probably never just going to magically show up in your bank account in the morning, unless there's a bank accident or something like that. So what are we trying to get to? We're trying to get people to a how can I, and life satisfaction to increase means that there are things in my life right now that I could be choosing. I might be shaky in my faith. Yes, my bank account may not look like I want it to, but you know what? The reality is that there's nothing that's keeping me from living into my purpose today. And here's the thing that I found about people who truly do live fully into their purpose. They're going to find a way to do it. The bank account does not reflect because here's the thing, is that every one of you have a purpose that's bigger than your bank account right now. And it's actually bigger than my bank account. And it's probably bigger than most of the bank accounts of the people who live in your city. If we're all honest, like if I asked this $10 million question, you guys would have that $10 million spent like that because your vision's too big. That thing that's in your heart is already too big. That why is massive. So what it means is that I can't wait until the bank account reflects my vision. I have to start implementing it. And one thing that starts happening is that money and resources and all those things always follow your why and always follow the vision that you're able to share to other people. So this is, you're looking at that document, this is how we ask these questions in method 1, which is addition and subtraction. Now, if we look at method 2, and that's on your document as well, we say biggest life decisions. And what we'll do is that let's practice. I need somebody to like volunteer with question 1. What's the biggest life decision that you've made that was the easiest for you to make? Can somebody volunteer? You can either turn on your microphone or throw it in the chat. Who'd like to volunteer? What was the easiest, hardest decision, but the biggest decision that you ever had to make, but also the easiest decision at the same time? Tammy says, to quit my job and spend more time with the family and follow a passion. John says, I up and moved to Texas, leaving my family behind. Wow. To work on me. Got it. So let me ask you as a follow-up to that, John, you said, oh, left to work on me. What was the value as you're kind of seeing that? What was the most important value that influenced it? And it could have been family. It could have been a lot of different things, but what was the deeper one? Veronica says getting married because I married my best friend. Got it. Tara says joining the army so I could have the means to leave my ex and be a single mom. Angela says staying here when I had the chance to move this year. So as I'm asking that, what are the bigger values that you guys are seeing that influence? See, because when you're clear and you know what's most important, then the decision's really easy to make. Ashley says accepting lesser pay to be available for family. That's huge. John says my family was actually holding me back. That's a really, so what is the bigger value that's under that? Well, the bigger value could be, and this is what you do with your clients, is that you get them to define what those things are. So what you're saying is that development, whatever that looks like, what are they holding you back? Is it achievement? Is it development? Is it peace? There's a lot of times people have left families for maybe one or all of those reasons, to develop, to have freedom, all kinds of different things. Angela says, I finally have friends here. It took 5 years to get connected here. Cool. Or is that helpful? Cool. Let me give you a couple of more of these questions that are actually on that document that I gave to you guys. A couple of more of them. What was what's the biggest life decision that you've made in the last 5 years? Who'd like to answer this question for me? Biggest life decision you've made in the last 5 years, and what helped guide you to make that decision? And if I can get somebody to turn on their microphone, that way I can have a back and forth really quick, that would be great.
Hey, Paul.
Go for it.
The biggest one was I quit my corporate job where I was very successful all the way going on my way to the top. I enjoyed it. I love working with the team, developing it, but my health failed. And it was hard for me in the beginning, but I have to tell you, 6 months later, a few months later, absolutely best decision ever. My health is back. And I started pursuing my dreams, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm building my own business, and it makes me feel alive again.
Wow, that's so awesome. So what guided you to make the decision? You said there was some health. Is there anything? What's that why behind the why as you think about it? On why it was difficult, or I don't understand, Paul. Well, you said that you loved the career that you were in.
Yes.
So that's a hard decision to make. So your why behind your why that made you ultimately make that decision was what, do you think?
Well, I was thinking, what do I want to do? Continue pursuing this corporate job and keep on going up executive level, and then having to be bound to medications my whole life, living half a life, not even enjoying what I was working so hard for. So, and I had to put in the balance and say, is the career what is more valuable to me, or is it me? Because if I value more my career, there's not going to be any more me to do anything. It was in the end that, yeah, it was hard just because I love the team I had built, and I had coached them and mentoring many of them group as professionals. And that's how I later, when I left my job, I started exploring all the coaching, and I'm happy I'm doing that now.
That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And so as you're working with people, and you can look on this document, some of those other questions is, what decision do you know that you need to make, but you keep putting it off? Would anybody like to share maybe an answer to that question? What's a decision you know you need to make, but you keep putting it off? Because this is another way to ask this question that really reveals an underlying value or some conflict that's actually going on with someone. Now, I know you'll have to be vulnerable to answer that one. Oh, and Sharon made a huge life shift. She quit a 20-year teaching career to become a coach. You should watch her on Instagram, though. She's fabulous on there. Joan says, hardest decision to walk away from an abusive marriage and temporarily leave my 5-year-old behind so I could find a safe place for us to live. Man, that's huge. Cool. All right. Last method that I'm going to show you. And you know what I might do? I might do a continuation next week because I had some other stuff that we're just not going to have time to do. But I'm going to try to wrap this up really quickly by showing you this one last little thing. Cool. So look on your document right there. And what you'll see in the document is on method 3 is a values discovery. Now, one of the ways that we use a values discovery, and here's the thing, is that, again, most people don't think about what's most important to them. So one thing that we can do is that we can start, and what we did on this is that we started essentially with the values, like the one-word descriptors. And what we do is that we help people think through what are the things that are most important to them. I'm going to grab something that is out of our advanced skills training and show it to you really quickly. Let me see. I think I've got it in this document right here. Let's see if I can grab it real quick. It's not that. Nope, it's not that, Paul. I'm probably just going to have to grab the deck and then I will show it to you. All right, it's not in that. Let's see if it's in this one. Please be in this one. It is not. All right, I got one more canvas that it could possibly be on. I wasn't planning to show you guys this, but I'm going to show it to you. And if it's not on this one, then I'm just going to grab the thing. Okay, it's not in there. So give me one second to walk off camera, and I'm going to get these and I'm going to show them to you. So what I have in the document is kind of like a values cheat sheet. And the values cheat sheet, what we do in it is that we can start by talking to someone about, hey, what's most important to you? Oh, well, I don't know what's most important. That's my problem. Okay, no problem. Here's a values discovery. What we're going to do is I want you to look at this word bank, and I also want you to think in your own life, what are the things that are most important? And look at this word bank and all of the things that you see on it, that I want you to decide what is out of these words, what are the ones that resonate the most with you. Now there's two, actually this is not the right one. Let me see if I can grab that other one, because I buy little products that I find are really helpful. The word bank is one simple way that you can have somebody, just as you're sitting there, jot it down and write it down on a piece of paper. And sometimes there's a one word value that can sum up, and it can share so much about, and it helps somebody connect to what their why is. Now, one of the products that I see out on the market, and I'm not trying to sell anything because I don't get any money from this. I'm just finding good tools that are out there. This one that's called the One Thing Core Values is it's a box. And there's another one that I saw recently on Amazon, the Live Your Values deck. I like this one better. This one's not bad though. I just felt like there's what this one did is that this one doesn't. They give you category cards that help somebody think in that way to go through, and I just, these are very designed like values like integrity, humor, all kinds of different things that are like that. So the Live Your Values deck, that's one that's out there. But another one that I really like is this one, the One Core Values. And I'm just going to grab a few of these and I'll show you how you utilize them. What I would normally do, and I do retreats with my clients, is usually the way I'll do one-on-ones. I'll do it in that way. I'll sit down, I'll grab the deck. They don't know what their values are. I'm like, listen, I'm going to give you this deck of cards and I'm going to give you like 30 minutes and you get done sooner. I said, what I want you to do, I want you to do a brain dump. I don't want you to think hard about it. I want you to look through these words, and the words that resonate really highly with you, I want you to put them in a pile. And some that resonate a little, that resonate, but not as highly, I want you to put them in this other pile. And the ones that have don't move your heart at all, just chuck them to the side. There's no right answer in it. And so what ends up happening is that this is what I find in people's lives, is that people live by about 5 values primarily. And what you'll do, even on this document, if you do something like this, you can say, hey, write down just do a brain dump, all of the values that are most important. The reality is that people have like 5 values that they live into. Values, those one word, and it can be a one-word descriptor of what's most important. And what you end up doing is that some of the other things actually give flesh and bones and muscle to what that value is in terms of how do they define it. Because if you say that your value is integrity, and a guy who, or let's say loyalty, let's say that you say, oh, my value is loyalty. But I have a guy in the mafia who's presently like killing people and everything else in the mafia sitting next to you and say, yeah, my value is loyalty as well. Probably stands to reason that you guys have different definitions for loyalty, probably different meanings and different ways of actually living out that value. And so what we want to do is that we want to not only have people figure out what their values are, but give definition to what it means for them. So I'm just going to pull like 5 out of here out of nowhere. And so here's some that they might end up with. Here's one that says impact. And here's one that says innovation, creativity, individuality, and wealth. So what ends up happening is that once they have their little values out there and you help them define it, what we end up finding really clearly is their why, but we also get in very explicit terms where their pain point, where their frustration, why they feel off, why they're saying, what's the point? Because if somebody feels like my life is made for impact, but in everything that they are doing, in their family, in their workplace, which can be, 40 to 60 hours a week where they're concentrating in that area, but they feel like their job has no role in impacting the world, or however they define impact. What does impact mean for you? Well, it means that I'm engaged in my community. It means I'm doing this. So now we've figured out what's most important. They get recalibrated to what's most important, and we figure out how we can partner with them so that they've got to make some drastic changes. Does this mean you need another role at work? Does it mean that you need a job change entirely? Does it mean that you have withheld, that you're withdrawing? Or is there a how can I? Right now, your job's not ideal, but how can you live into this value? Another one's innovation. No, I do the same work every day. It's the same spreadsheets. I do the exact same task every day, and it's killing me. So what it is this person isn't struggling with a lack of purpose, but their job is not connecting them with their why. So how can they connect with that in their life? Maybe in another way. Creativity. What does creativity mean for you? Does that mean painting? Does it mean creating things? No, it doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means that I'm building some things. Like I'm terrible. I'm like not good at art, and I'm not a musician or any of those things. Okay, well, cool. Well, tell me what creativity means. Well, I'm a programmer, and I love the intricacies of how programming actually creates a user experience for people. Oh, that's crazy. Well, tell me what you're doing in your job right now. I'm just managing the day-to-day task on updating a website. Well, that I can understand, but you know what's most important. So let's talk about how you can live into this value. Individuality. What does that mean to you? Oh, well, it just means that I'm living a significant life. I'm living independently, all of these other things. Okay, well, what's stealing that right now? What decisions are you unwilling to make it, or you've been unwilling to make, that would allow you to live into this value right now? Wealth. What does that look like? Well, wealth doesn't it isn't what you think it is. It's not about having possessions. Well, what does wealth mean for you then? Well, wealth means that I can be generous and I can say yes to things that are out there in the world. Well, tell me, when was the last time that you felt like you got to say yes to something in the world? Well, that's my whole problem. I'm like, well, how could you? Even right now, what decisions have you been putting off that's keeping you from being able to live into that? See, it's not hard to help people identify what is truly most important and what their values are. And if I can figure out, because values are, listen, they don't change for people. Values really never change for someone. And so if we can they're already hardwired for it. And values, there's not one that's better than another. And your values aren't better than mine, and one's not more ethical or moral or helpful or impactful in the world. I can't change how someone's wired. These are the things that are going to give you the most deepest satisfaction, and it's going to recalibrate your life with purpose. So if you start with your why, if you know which is in your values, and listen, you'll find that those values are expressed in relationships. Those values are expressed in the workplace. They're expressed in how you spend your money. They're expressed in how you spend your time, how you view a relationship, and whether it's valuable to you or not, or meaningful. And so what we're doing in all of these things is that now I can take a tool like Wheel of Life, and I can say, well, we know what your values are. Tell me what that looks like in a relationship. Tell me what that looks like in your workplace. Tell me what that looks like for your purpose. All of those things. And now you know what we do? We show people what where they should focus their life, and now they can have life satisfaction again. I can tell you, I spent in this week, in most of the conversations, I recalibrated somebody back to their why in about 15 minutes. It's not that hard. Some people are in disappointment right now. Some people are reeling. Some people are super frustrated, but it doesn't change their values. It just means that they're not living them, and they truly know it in their heart, but it feels a certain way. So when you see someone who's depressed, not all depression is clinical. Not all depression is a chemical imbalance. As a matter of fact, whether you know it or not, that some of the things that we think about and everything else actually affect the way that we feel, and it actually messes with your chemicals and cortisol and all of these other kinds of things. You can actually depress yourself because you're not living into what you know you're made to be. You're not living authentically. And so we're bringing people back to an authentic life and an intentional expression of their life. We can do that now. People are open to having these conversations. I dare you, go out today and start asking them, where on a scale of 1 to 10, do you know what your why is right now? 0, I have no idea. 10, yeah, I absolutely know what my why is. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being nothing, virtually nothing, 10 being, yeah, I fully know and I'm living into it. Do you know what your purpose is? Start asking those questions even today. You can use the tools that I gave you even today to start that conversation, and somebody should be able to walk away with, here's what's most important to me. Here's the 3 things that are most important to me. Here's the 1 thing that I know that I should be giving my life towards right now, and I have not been doing. And then you can keep coaching them to have action items towards those things, so that somebody's not just saying, well, here's what due north is, but they're actually making a plan and moving towards those things. This is how we do it. It's really easy. Like, people are not stuck and they're not all messed up, and the world is not a terrible place. Is that we're living terrible stories right now, and we're making terrible decisions based on the fact that we don't know what's most important. And that's some of the questions that you guys need to ask for yourself right now. What's most important in your life, and what are you going to do about it? And what decisions? What is the biggest high impact decision that you can make? What's most important, knowing why it's most important to you, and what decision are you going to make? And it'll be a game changer for everything, even for you. Let me go back over here and see. Sure, people had to get back to work and all of that other stuff, but it's been amazing. Do you have any follow-up questions to me? I know we're in overtime. Sorry that we went long. Told you that I was going to try to give you a lot today, but do we have any follow-up question to that?
Can I ask a question, Paul?
Sure.
So like Tara said, she found her why again after coaching because she had a setback. And I've had clients like that. They seem to know their why. They seem to know their purpose. And they're set. We've got the action steps, but somewhere between that week and the next week, they lose it. And do you think it's because they never really were honest with themselves? Or do you think they were honest, but then negativity or, imposter syndrome started knocking them back? Because,
Keep going.
No, I was just going to say, because I've seen it with several people and they're so set. They're like, I'm going to do this thing. I know it's my time. I'm ready. And then the week happens.
Right. Well, let's think about, there's a lot of different factors that are in that. And obviously I would be making a big assumption if I knew why everybody did that, because then we would all fix it like in a moment and everybody's life would change, I guess, So let me throw some things out there for all of you who, if you've experienced that in your life and or you've seen it in others, like, man, there's this excitement, because some of you today are like, I'm so excited and I'm so pumped up, and you're not going to do anything about it. That's human nature, right? That's the way that a lot of people are wired. So what is it that has to change so that people actually get gains? For one, state. What is your state of being right now? For everybody who's still watching right now, you're probably still watching because you're excited and you're like, this is so awesome. I'm going to do this on myself first, and then I'm going to do this on others and help other people. Yeah, right now, that state of being is very positive and you're excited and you're enthusiastic and everything else. People need to move when they're in that state, and they also need to control in their life their state of being. Most people don't. They kind of go like this. And so what happens is that people have a mountaintop experience, whether it's spiritually or in business or a motivational speech or whatever. They have a mountaintop experience, but they don't have the practical things every day in their life, because we can't just, it's the habits in life. It's what are we willing to change in life? Because right now there's a payoff for me tolerating my life as it is right now. Like for the people who say, I want to live purpose in my life, and it's going to cost $10 million to do that, but they don't want to invest the time or the money because, okay, well, this is going to hurt. Like, how do I know this is going to work? Like I watch this with coaches. How do I know this is going to work? Can you guarantee that I'm going to be successful and all this other? How do I know that I'm going to be great? I can't guarantee any of those things. I know the traits of the people who end up crushing it. And it has more to do, because I got a question yesterday. Somebody's like, hey, I want to get into coaching, but I've got a lot of self-doubt and I don't even know if I can be a good coach. And I was like, well, learning coaching skills is actually quite easy. I'm not wired like a fundamentally great coach. Like my natural wiring doesn't lend itself. But the question really is that are you going to do the things to defeat your own self-doubt? Because it's contagious. Like it's a very prevalent prevalent contagion amongst coaches. I'd say 99% of them have it. I've met no coach who's come in and said, I'm 100% confident that I'm going to go out and do this thing. What breeds confidence? What breeds confidence is our experiences, and it's the relationships and everything else. It's kind of like if somebody came to me and they said, Paul, I see that you love your wife and you really trust her, and I'm having love and trust issues with my wife. Do you think that there's something that you could do magical to help me get that? And I'm like, no, it's the hard work of relationship. It's realizing that you keep your promises and that she keeps her promises, and you develop a history with one another until trust, until confidence comes, because it's not going to come if you don't have a history with someone, or if you have a bad history with someone, And so it's those kinds of things, is that once you have a history with yourself, but to get there you're going to have to persevere through the self-doubt. Most coaches and most people, they don't want to be tested. At least your natural inclination is to protect yourself. So what we've got to do as coaches, if we have someone like that, we know that this person's going to go into survival mode, mostly guaranteed. Mostly people are going to try to stay away from the most painful things and the hard things because they're perceiving it as really painful and hard. So what we've got to switch the gears is that if I can keep somebody enthusiastic, excited about the outcome, if I can help them process, stay in feedback mode, that they know that they're actually growing, they know that they're developing, if I can figure out what motivates someone, if I can keep them on track, make sure that they have bite-sized steps that are satisfying. Go to that book that you even recommended about Atomic Habits, that it's those steps that they need to be satisfying with someone. Those habits need to be satisfying in and of themselves because they're going to have new ones. Right now they have bad habits. That means I'm not going to work on myself. I'm not going to go towards this thing. So those are huge things that we have to get established in a new client or in any client to see them make their way. Now, I'm going to give a client a benefit of the doubt in the very beginning that sometimes there's so much initial excitement that it's like anything. It's like a new couple getting married, and they're just like, let's go do this. And they got so much excitement and everything else. What did, I'm trying to think of who it was. I want to say it's Simon Sinek. I think it was him who said, what were the things that you were doing when you first got married and it was all passion? And he said, my thought is that if you kept doing those things, you'd never lose passion and you would stay in love. Those are the habits. Those are the things. Those are the things that even with our clients is however you're starting. So passion's something that we're going to try to leverage. Emotional state and learning people to shift their emotional state and everything else and have control on those things, keep them moving forward. Accountability with a coach, accountability with a group of people. All of these factors are support mechanisms that most people are going to need to stay moving forward because it's something that we all had when we were in school. I mean, like pretty much all of us had it. You had peer pressure, you had the smart kid in class, you had the class clown, you had all this stuff, but that structure was one of those things of like, oh, I found my place. There's a certain level of accountability because I want to graduate with my friends. I want to keep playing the sport, so I need at least a C level or whatever. Oh, I have a test on this day and I can't miss class. I have an assignment to turn in. I have a paper to turn in. All of those accountability measures that were there. And then there was the parent accountability, and there's all of these different things. So all of those things helped us as kids and even as adults with our workplace, kept us on track. It's these new things because they've shown no accountability in most cases that they've ever worked on it on their own. So these are the things that we have to help someone like I know it sounds like a lot, but the reality is that when it starts, how do I keep this person excited and motivated? Well, they need feedback. They need someone who celebrates them. They need to be able to track their own progress. They need a goal that's worthy of them. It's big enough, and it's also attached to their why. And if it's attached to their why, and they can see that they're moving towards it, even if it's baby steps, I can keep them motivated and I can keep them excited. If they have habits that are showing up that are crippling them or whatever, then I can ask them, how can I support you better? And what support structures do you need in place that it will keep you on point with what you want? And so people will, and keeping that vision in front of them, because it's the vision that keeps people restrained and it keeps them anchored to what they really want. So it's all of those things that as a coach that you're keeping in mind. I'm not going to assume that someone doesn't want something or they're lazy. There will be some people who will just have a really bad belief system that is self-sabotaging and self-defeating. Those are going to be things that obviously come up in a coaching conversation as well. So we'll never underestimate belief systems, because I don't want just systems in place that keep someone from failing. I've got to help them get their mindset in alignment so that they can actually possess what they want, rather than I have something that I want because there's all this accountability. It's like going to the gym and having a coach there or a trainer that beats you up every week. I want them to possess it. I want them to see, like some of you have said, man, I'm so into health that even if you gave me $1 million, I wouldn't give it up. What is that? That is a firm belief system that's not motivated by a short-term gain or a short-term fix to the solution, because you're able to see farther down the road, and it's changed you forever, that experience and everything. And so that's the other thing that we'll go after as coaches as well. Yes, we have to go after the belief systems if we want to see long-term change. So hopefully there was something in there for everybody that you can kind of get. All right. Well, we're in way overtime for a lunchtime. It was only supposed to be a lunch break, so my apologies. Well, everything's in the replay. Listen, we would love to journey with you as a coach. For some of you who have not gotten trained and certified, you don't know how to go get clients and everything else. I would put our Jumpstart program up against any program that's out there in the world, because we are firmly committed. We love our coaches, and we're high touch. Even though we're online, we're very big into your success. It's, I don't want to say that we're obsessive about it, but we're so into relationship and support that, you know what, there's a lot of how-tos that are out there in the world, but your how-to is not really your problem. Your problem's making a irrevocable decision, and it's finding the people who can rally around with you with a plan that actually works. And so what we've tried to do is make it affordable. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Most people are getting trained and certified for thousands with no plan of how to get clients. And we've been there. You know, I was one of those that was thousands in the hole when I started my career, and it's just not necessary. You can accelerate your learning really quickly to become a really good coach. This weekend's boot camp, if you enroll in Jumpstart today and put that link in there, it's $97. You'll be in for our boot camp this weekend. You can knock out your certification and then join us on Wednesdays when we go live. It's a live call that is a part of Jumpstart every Wednesday, where I go live with our students. The people who are in Jumpstart are amazing, incredible people who are building significant relationships and supporting one another. And so people are always giving feedback on what everybody is working on. Hey, I've got a new website that's going up. Hey, I've got a new product. Hey, I just finished an online course. Would you guys beta test it for me or whatever? You have these kinds of people who are extraordinary, who want to see you succeed. And so it's Jumpstart again. It's $97 a month, a 3-month minimum commitment. You get brand camp, you get boot camp, you get the coaching product launch blueprint. We give you the A to Z on how to develop your business, and you don't have to do this alone. All the support that you need is there, but we need you to show up. Like, need you to show up here, like where we're at, and join us. And so, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Thanks so much for the interactivity, and hopefully today what you got was worth the price of admission. Let me see some of the questions I see on here. V says, how many hours a day each day during the boot camp? Well, Friday we go 2 hours. So we start this Friday, which is 5 p.m. Pacific. And I think thankfully Joan threw the schedule in there. So each session is 2 hours. So there's 7 total sessions. Sometimes I go a little bit over during the Q&A, but I tried to mind the time. It's just accelerated. It's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. So you'll get a lot in a short amount of time. So Saturday we start at 7 a.m. Pacific, which is 9 a.m. Central, and it's 10 a.m. Eastern. So we'll do a 2-hour session, then a break, 2-hour session, then a break, then 2-hour session. So we're done by 3 o'clock Pacific time. That's 5 o'clock Central. It's 6 o'clock Eastern, both days on Saturday and Sunday. So one session on Friday night, and then all day Saturday and Sunday. And then your training's complete. You'll submit your assignments, and you'll take the exam, and you're done. But this whole weekend, I bring you through all the core competencies of coaching. We do a live Q&A at the end of each one of those sessions. And then we also have live role playing as well, so that you can see people demoing what does it look like to coach people. You can go in there and be a client, as a practice client or whatever. But the people who are in there are phenomenal. And there's a group just for the people who are in boot camp that those people are always staying engaged and connecting. And there are a large number of people who are in Jumpstart that do boot camp. They've done it several times, because you do get to come back and audit it again in the future. So coaching's more caught than taught. And so being immersed in that culture really helps you get it. Like, I was laughing yesterday because somebody asked a question in our group, and everybody had the answer to it, and it was like, oh, like all of my coaches who are in this program are also master marketers as well. Like they figured it out, and you can ask most of them and they know exactly what to do and exactly what needs to be tweaked, because we're training people to be people of wealth, thinking as wealthy people up here, changing their belief systems, but also just really becoming very good business people as their real commitments to us and what we do. When it says it's valuable, you always learn something new with boot camp. Christy says, this has been amazing and informative session. Thank you, Paul, for taking the time to drop these valuable jewels. You're definitely one of a kind. Thank you. Awesome. Well, that link is inside of, I'll stick it in there one more time. If you want to get enrolled before this weekend, it's an extraordinary deal. And $97, if you think that that's a high price tag, I think of it more like, well, what's the cost if we don't? To the world and to our own purpose. And it's really at the end of the day, I've watched people get really creative and ingenious about making that happen. 3-month minimum commitment to build a 6-figure career that also changes the world. I mean, that's what we're really gunning for here, right? So I appreciate you guys all immensely. Mike says, do it. So worth it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. So I am going to head out. I will stick this slide back on here and then we will head out. But listen, I appreciate you guys a ton. Thanks for spending your lunchtime with me and all of those things. And well, you know what? I don't even have that slide up there. So I'll let you guys go. Have a great one.